Hi, Jim here with another video for our investors on how to protect your assets. Now, I know you work really hard to get those pieces of real estate here in Las Vegas, so I'm really here to give you some tips and techniques to protect them from naughty people. So we're going to cover three subjects on asset protection, and the first is going to be hiding your asset. After all, if they can't find it, then it's easier to protect. The second thing we're going to talk about is structuring your assets, because if you structure it properly, only one asset can be attacked and the other assets are not going to be assaulted with those other ones. And then the third subject we're going to talk about briefly is insurance. Now, we could do a whole video on insurance, but today we're just going to talk about protecting assets in hiding, structuring, and insuring. So why is hiding your assets so important? I mean, as long as you're doing everything right, you shouldn't be sued, right? Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. In a lot of situations the last decade, a lot of our investors got sued for a lot of money. And I believe the number one reason why they got sued is because they were easy to find. Real estate, boats, businesses, cars are all examples of assets that's on public record. So not only do you want to hide yourself, but you want to hide your assets. So let's talk about hiding yourself. You don't want people to personally find you. This means you don't want to have any association between your assets and where you physically are. You need to make sure no one can physically find you. So just because you live in California or Washington doesn't mean some biker relative is going to show up at your door and freak your family out or get served. You don't want to be a big fat target. When someone is desperate and trying to get easy money, they're going to call an attorney. This attorney doesn't even look at the case. What they're going to look for is how much assets you have and if there's going to be a huge payout at the end. The number one asset they look for is real estate. It's easy to find in most cases. If your primary residence is the owner of record of your rental, you are essentially waving $1,000 out in the air at midnight around Fremont Street. You're just begging to get robbed. At the very minimum, you should make sure that your primary residence is off of public record. This means your rental property doesn't have your primary residence on the owner of record. So I'm going to show you as an example. I'm just going to pull up an address. This is my neighbor, for example. And I'm going to show you that his commercial property is owned by him and exactly where he lives. I'm also going to show you what his assets are worth. And I can show that to you within 4 minutes. So the cheapest solution for you is to get a UPS box and do a change of address with the assessor office. I'm going to give you a link below that you can lead you to that page with those instructions. So that's your very minimum. Make sure your primary residence is not public record. The next step is to get that property into an LLC or a trust associated with that UPS box. The idea here is you no longer want to be associated with that asset. You don't want to be shown as owning that asset. So this is going to lead into creating your trust and your LLCs. So picture your assets in the form of a castle. We're going to start off with your keep. In the old days, this is where the kings kept all their prized possessions. And in your keep, you're going to want to keep all your jewelry, your personal items, cars, and so on, and your livestock. No, just kidding. The keep is owned by your trust. This should be your minimum protection and will enable you to transfer your assets in the event of an untimely death. So unless you're a vampire, you're going to eventually get sick or die. So you want to start off with this guy right here, this trust. The trust enables you to transfer all of your assets in a seamless manner. Let me give you some other basic tips on setting up your trust. Never, ever name your trust after your name or your surname. Seriously. Half the trusts out there have the names of the beneficiaries. If you name the trust after your name, you've eliminated half the point of building one and hiding your assets. The other tip I'd like to give you is never use your offspring as the executor, especially if you have more than one child. If you do this, you are setting up for a major conflict in the future. Quickest way to destroy your family is to split up your siblings and pit one against the other. Even if your kids get along now, it may not be necessarily true in the future. All it takes is a greedy spouse to destroy that whole relationship. So don't do this to your kids. The best approach is to name the executor someone you trust to distribute the assets fairly and who has some real estate and wealth knowledge. You will pay this person to liquidate your assets and distribute them as you instruct them. A fair amount to compensate your executors between 3 and 5%. This is something you should discuss with the executor and have it written down in the future. You also want to review the trust with the executor so they get the idea of what your attempts are, what your intentions are. The idea here is you don't want to create a conflict in your trust, and you want someone who you know knows what they're doing and can distribute the assets the way you want. So let's say you did really well for yourself and you have multiple properties or multiple businesses or both. Now it's time to add some towers and some walls and possibly even a moat. Each tower is going to hold anywhere from 1 to 5 assets. You can have one tower for each asset, but it gets pretty pricey. In Nevada, there is such thing as a series LLC. In this case, each series LLC has one asset, but it has the same name. Revenues and expenses are associated with each bank account. These series LLCs are fairly new, so I'm a little leery of this type of structure. Your attorney can probably give you even better advice about this. I'm a little old-fashioned. I like my LLCs with a different name, and each LLC holds between 1 and 3 assets. A business definitely should have its own tower, as businesses are a lot more susceptible to lawsuits. So the idea here is each tower is independent, and your whole castle won't fall down if one is breached. So let's add a moat. Yeah, a moat with crocodiles and nasty things lurking in the water. This would be your attorney, or in our case, a property manager. Your property manager is the person who's going to be the gatekeeper who allows only specific vendors and tenants with access to specific towers. Of course, your property manager needs to be someone who's experienced and knows trouble when they see it. If you let some idiot man your gate, you're going to have issues. Insurance is the last and final protection for your assets. Your mortgage holder requires you to have fire insurance, which usually comes with some basic coverage for damages and lawsuits. If we manage your property, we will require you to have limestone investments additionally insured. The reason we do this is because we get frivolous lawsuits from time to time and we need to be on the same team. Your attorney wearing a $1,000 suit will be the one representing you and limestone at the table. This also eliminates a potential conflict in the team and creates a joint defense. Most insurance companies do not charge extra for this, so if your agent tells you need to pay extra, just let us know and we'll give you some alternative companies to choose from. So thanks again for watching my video on protecting your assets. I work very hard to keep naughty tenants from getting in your properties, but I can't protect you from everything. So those 3 things will really help you and me keep your assets protected. Thanks again for watching.